Hey friends, welcome to Microsoft Build Live. It's Azure Friday Live. This is the first time we've ever done this. It's a bit of an experiment. I'm Scott Hanselman, and I've done Azure Friday for almost 500 episodes. We thought while we were here at Microsoft Build, we would pull a few episodes of Azure Friday out of thin air. And for our first episode, we've got Byron Tardif from App Service. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, Scott. Thanks for having me, and thanks for everybody here. Very excited to talk about App Service and what's new.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of this. Maybe they'll let us do this again sometime.
Awesome, yeah.
Excellent. So you know I'm a huge App Service fan. I have a lot of stuff running in App Service, and I know that a few things in App Service have changed, been updated, been improved. You're always making it better.
Right. There's a couple of new things specifically for Build. So we have a new offer which lets you run Linux App Service apps for free. That's something that wasn't there. The cheapest you could get was our basic SKU, but now we have a free SKU that people can go try out. We also have the new VNet integration in preview for both Linux and Windows, with the ability to configure service endpoints on that VNet. So it makes it very easy to lock down the environment so that only stuff that's in the VNet will be able to talk to your application.
I always assumed that VNets were an expensive thing that only like fancy companies need.
Yeah, usually we only had it for app service environments, where the barrier of entry was $1,000 a month, the cheapest.
That's a barrier to entry, indeed.
But now we're bringing it down to lower SKUs, where it's basically a lot cheaper to just get started and even have that lockdown environment that people want.
That's great. OK, cool. I noticed also that the portal has been changing. When I go into the portal, ordinarily it's like blades, right? And some people really like the blades, but sometimes you're just trying to get started.
Right.
I want to be able to create an app service as fast as possible. Do I understand that you've actually redone that?
Yeah, correct. So I work specifically in the app service UX team. So we're responsible for both the web app and the functions UI. And we're basically shipping every 2 weeks. Hopefully people don't notice that we're doing this, but every 2 weeks there's a new version of the websites extension, functions extension in production. And one of the things that we've been doing is moving the create experience to be full screen. So this is something that we started with app service environments, then we did it for app service plans, and now for Build we have the full screen GA of create web apps. And that's basically the segue into our first demo.
OK, cool. So let's bring up the screen and take a look at our first demonstration.
So this is one of the new things that they've been doing in the portal. So now you have this home experience that loads very fast and gives you the resources that you've been recently using. As you can see, I'm a web apps guy because that's pretty much all I have over here. But if I wanted to go create a new one, that is where the create resource comes in. And you can just basically go right there into web app, and this is where the new experience comes in.
See, I'm used to it being a blade, and then I jump out of the blade, and I jump back, and I go back and forth. I mean, with all due respect, it was a little bit confusing.
Right. It's what we used to call journeys, and not everybody wants to go on a vacation when they're creating a web app, right? So you should be able to just click, 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 and be done with it. So one of the things that you will see is that this basics tab basically has everything that you need to create your app. You have your subscription and your resource group, which is basically the way that I talk about resource groups is the folder where all of your stuff goes in. Then comes, so let's start going and create something here. So I'm going to do BK demo live.
Yeah, I just think of resource groups as a dotted line around your stuff. And I want a circle around my stuff so I can delete it all later.
Exactly.
Especially if I'm making demos.
Also, if you want to share it with somebody else, that's where you set permissions to basically give somebody else access.
Oh, to the entire resource group.
Then I'm going to give it a name, app. And then the next thing that you need to choose is basically what are you publishing? So are you pushing a bunch of code, or are you pushing a Docker image? Not a lot of people know this, but App Service supports both just your plain code or a Docker container, or even a Docker Compose multi-container scenario. And it's very easy to go and just get started with that. Then the other thing that we made is we've made the runtime stack selection be upfront. So when you're choosing a runtime stack, and for example, if you select something that is only supported on a Linux instance, you will only get a Linux instance. If you select something that we support both on Windows or Linux, you will see both Linux or Windows, and we will make a recommendation as to where we think you're going to get the best experience. So for example, .NET Core 2.2, we recommend Windows. But if I were to select something like, oh, this is another improvement that we've made. Now, all of these lists are filterable, searchable. So if you know exactly what you're looking for, you can jump directly into that. So for example, PHP 7.2, you get to choose Linux or Windows, but we recommend Linux. For the sake of my demo, I'm just doing .NET.
I see .NET Core 2.2, but I kind of do some stuff with .NET Core 3, which is in preview, and I don't see it there. What's the best way to get something strange or something unusual or new?
Right. That is where Docker comes in, and it makes it very easy because you can create your own, Windows, Linux image, whichever one you want. Put in whatever runtime you want, even if you want to do Go or .NET 3. Whatever, the latest preview, or even the one that you just built on your machine locally. You can throw it in there and then run it on App Service, and it gives you that same familiar environment that you're already used to from running one of our built-in images.
Cool.
The next thing is the location. So where do you want to have this resource created? And you and I have presented in Africa.
Yep.
And now we also have the South Africa regions available for App Service.
Nice.
There. So if you wanted to go create something over there, you can do it.
That's actually a huge deal. One of the things that's interesting about global internet systems like this is you have to think about literally the speed of light.
Right.
When we were spending time in South Africa, you have to think about they were using, I think, something in Ireland or somewhere in North Europe, and it was like a 300 millisecond to get from Southern Africa to Northern Europe, and now they've got it in country.
Yeah, the best thing about having a data center close to you is that you can put the app that your customers are using really close to them. And that makes it so that you don't have to go through 17 network hops just to get the first byte of your application back.
Makes a huge difference.
And all of this stuff that we've been talking about is with relationship to your application. But now you need to choose where you're going to host that app, as in how big of a machine you want, how many instances, etc. And that is basically what the App Service plan defines. And as you can see here, I can get started with a standard instance, but I'm a little bit too zoomed in here. But I can go into larger machines, more power, more humph, as I need it.
By the way, it's interesting that you point that out because I'm used to running freeze, basics, standards. My budget's about $100 a month. I don't want to spend too much more. But I didn't realize that App Service goes big. Like some of the premium SKUs, 14, 15, 16 gigs of RAM on a single App Service plan.
Exactly. And the biggest project that I have personally participated in was the Canadian Elections app that the CBC built. And we were running about 4 different ACEs.
An ACE is an App Service environment.
Yep. And they were doing around 1 million requests per second, all hosted on App Service.
Wow.
So you can go as small as the free instance or as big as you want. It really depends on your application and who's going to be the target audience.
And you can also do things with density. I've got one medium right now, and I've got 16 or 17 websites in it, and about 14 of them are trivial, but there's no reason for me to make a second App Service plan for such a small site. So I've packed it in pretty tightly.
Exactly. You pay for the App Service plan. You don't pay for the app. So that makes it so that if you have a right-size App Service plan, you can put a lot of applications in there. So the next thing that you're going to see is that we do have a monitoring tab. This is basically where you can configure application insights for your application. We recommend everybody that is running App Service or functions to definitely go configure application insights. It gives you a lot of rich monitoring for your application, so you can see what's going on with your app, what's going on with the dependencies, if there's anything slowing down. There's always a case where, hey, my app is slow, but is it my app or is it the SQL database behind the scenes or something in networking that is misconfigured? AI makes it very easy to you to pinpoint that.
Well, and speaking of application insights, if you don't mind, I might go a little bit off script, but could you take a look at the dashboard that we created? Because I was really impressed at how quickly we could actually get a dashboard.
So, for example, over here, if I go to, this is a dashboard that basically got generated for my application.
Right, so you went in, this is really interesting. He went into application insights, which is built in. He just hit yes, and he made the application. And when he's sitting on the application insights page under overview for the application insights, here we go.
So you can see that I have AI configured for my app.
Right. It's interesting when you say AI because it is both kind of, it feels like AI, but it's application insights. And there's a star button that appears on you have this now. If you go to your application insights instance and you hit this star that says application dashboard, that's okay.
So
there it is.
Right here.
You're in your application insights. There it is. It says app dashboard. I didn't know what this did.
Right.
I just fell into it, and I pushed that button, and I pushed it. Go ahead. And then it generated this dashboard. And what's cool about this is this is totally configurable, right? You can right-click and change this dashboard.
This is basically just going to get you started. AI is a very feature-rich product. There's a lot to it. And it's very hard to discover all of the different things that they can do, but this is definitely a good entryway into figuring out, hey, what is all of this stuff that Application Insight gives you?
Yeah. I went and added a bunch of other stuff. I added billing, I added the things that matter to me. And of course, with Application Insights, you can add a bunch of custom things, and those custom charts and graphs can appear here as well.
Correct. And then going back to the create experience, so this is where you basically would go and make sure that your app is instrumented and created with AI from the start. The next thing is tags. Tags are really useful, especially if you're like an enterprise-y type of customer, because these tags that you can add to your resources will flow all the way down to your bill. So you can tell which resource is being used by, for example, what cost center, or which resource is costing you how much money based on your bill.
I see. That might sound like a small thing. It might seem like even a very small feature, but think about that for a second. Right in the past, I've been using poorly named, my fault, poorly named resource groups, confusingly named auto-generated web app names, but I can go and tag them as like, this is the R&D team, this is the accounting team, or whatever, and then these, like you said, that tag goes all the way to the bill, so then I can go and check billing by tag, and where tag is whatever your organization decides to use.
Correct. And then developers also use it to add a little bit of metadata. So if they want to share something with multiple people using that app, they can add it in the tag.
Yeah, I actually created a Minecraft server recently, and I forgot a bunch of metadata and context, and I did it in Azure. And it turns out that the ARM template, the Azure Resource Manager ARM template, included like 5 or 10 different tags with context that I needed.
Right. And then the next step is review and create, where we basically give you a summary of what all is going to happen when we create this application. This is also where all of the validation happens. So we want to make sure that when you're at this point, anything that would cause an error when you're deploying the app, we would bubble it up and make it very easy for you to not get into errors. The other cool thing about this full screen create experience is that it gives us room to grow. So if we ever want to add a new feature or something else that integrates nicely with this experience, all we need to do is add another tab, and it would be part of the flow. So at that point, I can go create, and within 30 seconds, you're going to have an app ready to go.
So this is a new experience that's out now, though, right?
Correct. This is GA as of the beginning of build.
Okay. And there's another new experience, and this is the remaining 2 minutes that we could take a look at, that I noticed right away, because I'm used to going to application settings to go and check on my app settings, but the configuration thing is new.
Yeah. One of the things that people found confusing, that we had something called app settings, and then there was app settings within the app settings, so we renamed it to configuration, which seems to make more sense.
Yep.
Also, most of the people come here, they come specifically for app settings, so we made that the first choice. That's where you land. And one of the key features that we added is this advanced edit feature. So
this is huge. Like, we were actually in a meeting, and someone thought of this idea, and then he pushed advanced settings, and it was already there. It was almost like, oh, we should do this. That would be amazing. I'm tired of pasting into text boxes. What if I could just paste JSON, and you'd fill the text boxes out? And you were like, boop,
there you
shipped
go.
it.
Yeah, so this is something that definitely people come in, they want to edit more than one app setting. It was very tedious work.
Yep.
We think this makes it a lot faster. It makes it a lot easier to even copy paste and send it to somebody else. Or if you want to copy from one app to another, it makes it so that you can do that without having to, jump around hoops in the UI.
Well, and it's hugely helpful for small sites that maybe are, too much hassle to do an ARM template, but I do have a piece of configuration, and if you're explaining to someone in a document on GitHub, here's the required configuration for your application, paste this into advanced settings.
It makes it very easy. And that also is available for, I don't have any connection strings, but if you want to do it with connection strings, you can also do it. We support, SQL, MySQL, all of the different databases that are provided on Azure, as well as all of the table storage.
So in the remaining few seconds, what is available now and what is preview?
So available now is the configuration experience, the new GA of full screen creates. In preview is the VNet integration and the service endpoints configuration on top of that VNet. Also GA is the free Linux tier.
Free Linux tier.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I am learning all about some of the new features in App Service on Azure Friday Live. And this is where you burst into spontaneous applause. We'll be right back with more Azure Friday.